What started as peaceful protests outside St. Louis police headquarters has turned destructive. You can see the broken glass in downtown St. Louis. This is the third straight night of protests following a judge's decision to acquit Jason Stockley, a former police officer in the death of Anthony Lamar Smith, a suspected drug dealer.
Tonight, they have damaged several businesses along Washington Avenue. Agitators have broken windows and flower pots. At least one bike officer is injured and at the hospital. The injuries are not life-threatening. Police have ordered people to leave.
Firefighters are on the front lines with police. Officers say agitators are throwing objects, including unknown chemicals in bottles. You can see they confiscated some, and it was in that picture. County police tweeted a picture of firefighters helping wash and decontaminate the officers.
Now, the day began with hundreds protesting peacefully at police headquarters. They marched up to St. Louis University's campus, then back to the police department, where hundreds lay in the streets for a die-in. Shortly after that, most in the crowd of hundreds left when the organized protest ended, yet some of the agitators remain.
This is a live look from our chopper in downtown St. Louis right now. There's about a dozen police cars with flashing lights. There are still some people on the streets, but we couldn't really tell at one point whether people were there as activists or agitators or if they were just onlookers. St. Louis and St. Charles and Tucker is the area that we're looking at. Things have calmed down, though, from a few hours ago.
We have live team coverage tonight. Let's begin with 5 on Your Side's Casey Nolan. He's in downtown St. Louis. Casey.
Mike and Ann, I'll try to tell you what we are seeing now, and then I'll tell you how we got here. Right now we're at Washington and Tucker. The streets are shut down. And then just beyond the view here, we've got a kind of a point of tension at Locust and Tucker. What this, we believe, started out as, there's a report of a car accident about 2 blocks from there. And to kind of secure the scene of that car accident, we believe some bicycle officers had kind of shut down Locust before anybody was even there. However, we've got a lot of activity down here tonight and a lot of tension in the air, as one downtown resident put it to us. And a crowd of people found those officers kind of blocking that street. The ones you're seeing now, they're just guarding Washington Avenue. And then when they found those officers, they told them to back up. They did not. Very quickly, a large police presence moved in, and then just a few minutes ago, we heard the announcement we've heard already a few times this weekend. This is an unlawful assembly. Chemical munitions may be used without further warning, although we have not seen that yet. People did move back about a block or half a block or so. Let's look at some tape we recorded earlier this evening. As you mentioned, there was a peaceful protest. It was organized and ended, or at least that's what organizers had hoped, around 6:30 this evening at the St. Louis Police Department headquarters. That's where the folks who were leading that march told folks they were done for the day and they were going home. However, about 100 or so stuck around, and for a couple of hours things were still peaceful as they chanted outside the St. Louis Police headquarters. At one point, they started moving toward downtown. They moved into the more narrow confines of Olive, passing over Tucker, and started turning over some potted plants, turning over some potters outside of apartment buildings. Actually saw someone throw a bottle at this group of protesters from a window up high, and a glass bottle broke in the crowd, and they continued on. They started breaking windows along some of the buildings along 9th and Washington Avenue. That's when St. Louis County and St. Louis City Police stepped in and pushed people back. At one point, it was getting a little hectic. We actually saw some folks just trying to go home get caught up in all of the chaos.
Yeah, we was just, they told us to go that way because they said that people were shooting back the other way, so it's too much. Let's go home.
Forgive the quality of that. That was taken from a Facebook Live event we were doing there. So now here we are. Since then, we have seen some arrests. We have had reports of officers sprayed with an unknown substance. They said that the St. Louis Fire Department came in and decontaminated some officers, and we have had some reports of some minor injuries to officers. Right now, they've got the streets. Washington Avenue is blocked off. Tucker is blocked off here near Washington, and we're just kind of in a holding pattern. Again, we believe they are working an accident not too far from here, and that's what kind of started this original police line that we have at this moment. Mike and Ann, that's the latest for now. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Those agitators marched from police headquarters toward downtown, where they damaged several businesses. Already, some are outside cleaning up the glass.
5 on Your Side's Jacob Long reports from downtown St. Louis. Jacob.
Mike and Ann, tonight we're at the corner of 9th and Olive, and right here behind me, this is one of 4 businesses in the area that have been damaged. This is Patriot Personnel Services, and you can see the 2 massive holes here that have been created in this business's storefront. As we back up and walk a little bit, its next door neighbor, the Nails Center, has also been severely damaged. The entire pane of window glass has been knocked out. It is now here on the ground. And then next door to it has also been damaged. This is Sushi Ai, the Japanese cuisine. Now, they also had their front window knocked out, but what was so scary about this situation, Mike and Ann, is that they were actually open for business, and from what the employees told me, they were not only inside, they had customers inside, and so that was terrifying for them. That is why they were able to get this under control so quickly. As you mentioned, yes, not long after this happened, some people came out into the area to start cleaning up, and this happened not long after that peaceful protest that happened at the police department began to disperse. The crowd kind of broke up into those separate groups of agitators that we've been seeing over the last couple of nights in the Central West End, in the Loop, and now in the downtown area. This time around, I am told by police that they were breaking off pieces of concrete flower plants. They were knocking them over, and that is what they were using, pieces of that, to launch into the front of these businesses. Another similarity among all of this vandalism, we are still seeing that same kind of resilience from people in the area. Earlier, across the street at the Clarkson Eye Care, which was also damaged, a man who lives nearby heard about the damage, and he was one of the first people to come out, begin cleaning up on his own, and here's what he had to say about all of this vandalism.
I'm not nervous, I'm sickened is what I am.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's just disheartening to see this happen to innocent people down here. So it's my neighborhood. I want to come out and clean it up.
We haven't heard of any injuries related to that, so that is some good news to this vandalism. That is, I also want to mention we have reports that the Marriott, which is across from the Dome at America Center, they've had windows busted out tonight. So we had the Central West End, the Loop, and now downtown. But again, business is already beginning to clean up here. We're live downtown St. Louis. Jacob Long, 5 on your side.
And as Jacob mentioned, some downtown residents were at restaurants when protesters broke windows.
Christina Coleman continues our live team coverage from downtown. Christina.
Right, there were people in restaurants who live downtown. There were people walking by who live downtown. And I want you to go ahead and take a look at this. This is the outside of Clarkson Eye Care. You could see it is boarded up. You could see the shattered glass here. Now, this business actually has apartments above it. So there are a lot of people who live here. I spoke with one resident who says he watched as the protesters were running by and he just wasn't sure what was going on. Go ahead and take a look at some of the video we shot earlier. You know, I spoke with one gentleman who was in Sushi Ai when the windows were shattered. He lives off of Tucker, and he wasn't sure what he was coming home to. Now, what he saw was this, a heavy police presence along Tucker and at the intersection of Tucker and Washington Avenue. He saw officers on bikes standing in line and in police cars. Streets were also barricaded, and there were a lot of people, his neighbors, who were just standing around unsure what was going on.
I thought originally that just a fish tank got dropped over or something, and then once the girl started running back and screaming, that's when I kind of jumped up and was like, what just happened? And then I saw all of them just start running past the windows, and that's when I went to the kitchen. I was not trying to be stuck in the middle of that. It was a crazy feeling.
Now, mind you, at least 8,000 people live in the downtown area. And again, I spoke to several of them. They all say they're very worried. They're concerned. They're staying in their places, and they're just kind of watching from outside their windows to hear and see if there are going to be sirens, if there are people walking by. You know, they're monitoring the situation, and we will continue to do the same. Reporting live downtown, Christina Coleman, 5 on your side.
As we mentioned, tonight's unrest followed a day of peaceful protests.
5 on your side, Jennifer Meckles is live at police headquarters where hundreds gathered with a message for police. Jennifer.
Good evening, Mike. Well, right now, pretty quiet outside the downtown police headquarters, the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Station. Earlier today, though, a different story. Helicopter video will give you a better picture of what this looked like. But hundreds of people were here. They staged a die-in. They were lying on Olive Street in front of police headquarters. And then the demonstrators marched to St. Louis University, briefly blocking the intersection of Grand and Laclede. And then eventually they marched back here again to police headquarters. Today's march included people of all ages, included politicians, even members of the clergy.
There's a lot of love and support here amongst us. We're here to peacefully state our opinion and try to open up a dialogue so that real change can take place in St. Louis.
Now, the protest also included 6 minutes of silence for Anthony Lamar Smith. Live downtown, Jennifer Meckles, 5 on your side.
Just minutes after police got the vandalism under control downtown, police responded to a 2-car crash at 7th and Olive. That's the crash Casey was talking about at the top of this show. Police say a speeding car crashed into an innocent driver. 2 people were arrested, and police are telling us guns, drugs, and a mask were found inside that speeding car.
Police made arrests for last night's vandalism on the Del Mar Loop. 5 people are facing charges from unlawful assembly to rioting, property damage, and assault. Officers also arrested 4 other people, including 2 juveniles. The governor said he would support peaceful protests but would not tolerate violence. Officers also arrested 33 others Friday night. In case you missed any of this weekend's coverage, we have much more online. You can head to KSDK.com or the KSDK app for complete coverage.